Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of Wool, and in this video we're looking at everything they don't tell you when creating stylized hair or fur. So I've been looking at creating some hair and fur in Blender recently, and I've been watching lots of videos and tutorials on how to do it, and annoyingly they seem to miss out a lot of the really useful tools and things you can do with curves. So I want to really cover that. We'll cover the basics first and then go into those just so it's a more complete tutorial, but I'll put some chapters in the description so you can skip forward if you know how we generally make hair. So what we're going to do is bring in a curve, and we want a Bezier curve. Let's just G that somewhere there so we can see it. And then we'll do the same thing, Shift and A, and then we're going to bring in a circle curve and then bring that somewhere up here. And then we'll just RX90 so we can see this really clearly. And let's bring this original curve over here and we'll tab into edit mode and we'll just G to make this a bit bigger. Now I've got machine tools for this object mode to edit mode. If you don't have that, just hit tab and it will go into edit mode anyway. So it just is normally used in my other videos to show what I'm doing a little bit more clearly. So what we're going to do is come to this. We're going to go to our object data properties here, come down to geometry, and then we are going to select that we want the bevel to be an object, and this allows us to click any other curve, and we're going to click our curved circle. So now we get this big circle shape. And what we can do here is just modify this to create something a bit more hair-like. So let's just go into edit mode. I'm going to G and Z that one up. So we've got this bit a bit flatter. And then we'll do the same thing for here. Let's go somewhere about there. And then we want to add more detailing here. So I'm going to select those, right click and subdivide. And with them all still selected, right click and subdivide again. Now what this means I can do is select this point here, let's G and move that in, this one here, let's G and move that in, and this one here, let's G and move it in to make this sort of more rippling shape. But I don't quite like this curve here, so we're going to change that to be a little bit sharper. So we're going to select all of those with Shift, press V, and we're going to change this to vector. And this will give a much sharper shape to each of these. Looks more like a point. And to me, this gives a better realization of what hair is going to look like. So now this is the point where we're going to start differing from what all of the other tutorials say to do. Let's just Shift and D and then bring this off to the side, and we'll have a look at what they say versus what I'm going to tell you to do as a better method. So we can come into edit mode here and just start rotating things around, and we get our hair. It all looks very nice. And then what we might want to do is subdivide this. So once again, right click, subdivide, and we've got that in the middle. We might actually want to do that again, so we've got more subdivisions. Then we're going to have this as the beginning of the hair, and we want to make this, we'll have a better flow to it. So what we're going to do is press Alt and S, and that's going to allow us to scale in this point, and we can create something there. Now, what we want to do is really get this to 0 because we don't want a big gap. I mean, I guess you could leave a gap like this and fill it, but if we're 3D printing, we want this to go to a point. So if you hit N and come to item, we've got our radius here, and if I press Alt and S, you can see this is just changing the radius. So what we're just going to do is turn that to 0, and then we're going to come to this one here, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Change that radius to 0, and then this one we can Alt and S and sort of shrink that in to make this flow a little bit better. And then we've got our points. We can just start G'ing and rotating these around and moving everything that we want. So we can make our hair and start bringing this onto our head. So we start getting our basic hair. We can start putting this better in place for our model, and we start getting our hair working out. Cool. Except now, when I want to make a copy of this or make more of this hair, I'm going to Shift and D, duplicate it, and then start messing around with everything. And then the one at the back is going to be totally off. So I'm going to have to start changing everything. This is all going to be quite annoying. What we want to be able to do is actually just draw in the hair really easily. And what we're going to do for that is stop worrying about this Alt and S to change our radius and get Blender to do it automatically. So I'm going to delete that out. Now let's come back to this. I'm going to go into edit mode, and importantly we're going to come here to our draw curve button. And if we come either here to our tool, we've got all our settings here, or we can come in our M panel to tool and we've got all of our settings here. Either one is perfectly fine. But very importantly, it has this option for a taper start and a taper end. Now, what's annoying about this is it won't show us what we're doing as we're doing this. I'm going to put this taper end to 0.5 and nothing's changed. And we'll change this taper start to 0.3 and again, nothing's changed because we actually have to draw a new curve for us to get this. But you can see what has happened here. We've now got more tapering and it's automatically working. Now, the way this works is that this taper start is basically as a percentage. So this is going to taper from 30% at the beginning. I can change this to, let's say, 10%. So that'd be 0.1. Draw another one and you can see it's much sharper. And then the curve at the end is, well, how far it comes in from the end to taper in. So I could change that to 0.4 or 0.7, and this will have a much smoother curve. So it's up to you what you want to do here and what you think works really well. I generally like about 0.6 and 0.2, but I'll leave that up to you to play around with. So here we get something that looks a bit like that. Now we can still do all the things that we normally want to here. For example, let me just A and delete all of those out and we'll start again. So I can still very comfortably draw this out and I can still, let's say, come up here, select these, right click and subdivide and get more points as I choose. And they automatically set, let's come to item, with the correct radius for where they are. So I can still, again, subdivide more and get lots of control over this. But we're still going to have the problem of having to grab this, duplicate it and put it on our surface, except for we don't. With our curve pen, what we can do is just draw straight onto our head and it's going to create our curve, except for we're going to once again play around with our tools and change the depth to surface. And now if I just draw on this head, it creates the hair on the head really quick as we want. Now I think this is a bit big, so let's just select this. I'm just going to scale this down slightly, maybe somewhere there looks a bit better. And this will keep affecting the curve. I just come back into the curve, start drawing on, and I get my curve. And this makes everything really, really easy to do. Now, this has other benefits as well. If we just A and then once again delete all those vertices, I can also set an offset. I'm going to put that as, let's try 0.2. We are going to want to use an absolute offset. Normally this offset, I'm not going to go into this too much, works off of, if we come to our geometry, if we have a round selected, it works as a percentage of that round depth. We don't want that, we're using our object, so we're going to have to change this to absolute, and then we can click on this, and then we get this now offset from our head, which might be what we want if we want a bit more of an anime sort of style. Let's try 0.1. Yeah, that's nice. So it gives us just a little bit of gap to play with, or 0.05. I think that's pretty good for me. So that's what I want to see. So we can play around with this offset, and now we can just draw or keep drawing on our hair. And this works really, really quickly and easy. Well, that sort of went a little bit over the ear there, but we can draw that in and we get our hair really, really easy. Okay, you can still edit all of these points and press Alt and S if you want this one to be wider or less. There is nothing that this is stopping us doing that we did in the other one, except for we've now got everything being vastly quicker to draw. Let's just subdivide that so it's a little bit smoother. So we can do everything that we did previously, we just get more options. Okay, next trick. So I've just moved this part here and it's created this horrible kink in this hair that just doesn't look right. And you get that when moving these objects around sometimes, and then you start having to fiddle around with, okay, now I'm going to rotate this a little bit more, okay, that looks smoother. Stop with that. This is an entire waste of time. If you just press A and select all of your points, V, and then select automatic, this now will have a really nice flow to each of these points, and as you start moving them around, everything flows with it. So I can move that over here and you can see that this just generates a really nice flowing shape. So this automatic is way better in my opinion. It gives such a better result and allows you to spend a lot less time faffing and fiddling with this hair to get a good result. So I'd really, really recommend this automatic. So you can see how quick that makes everything to do, just moving it around. I do recommend you always put each of your hair pieces into the head, so the initial start point. I just think it gives a much better look to sort of the central parting. Let's just select those, right click and subdivide. So that would be my recommendation as well, is to put every time your hair into the head so you don't see that final point. But you can see how quick and easy this makes everything to do. You still have to fiddle around with things like you do normally, but you can just really play around with this hair and it just works really nicely. And then whenever you need to draw a new curve or add some new hair, you just select the point and you just draw it in and you've got your starting bit. So we can actually give the beginning of this really quickly and then A, V, and set automatic. Annoyingly, it won't just keep that, which is a little bit frustrating. So it just makes everything very, very quick and easy to do, way faster than you see people sort of faffing around with in some of those other hair tutorials where they just cover this basic bit and they don't mention some of these handles and what you want to do to change and make this work. Now let's just select these control points here. The other thing I want to mention is it's quite nice keeping this all together, because as one thing I can just correct everything very, very quickly as collective points. I don't need to always go in and select everything and then keep swapping between them. I can just move everything around really quickly and easily because everything's joined together. Everything's one object. Now if you do ever want to have one, now this also adds an additional benefit in that if I wanted to, let's just move this down, start moving some of these points together. So for example, say I didn't like this and I want to move them all collectively, because this is one object, I can come to our proportional editing or just hit O to turn that on or off, then G to move it, and then just scroll up. Now I'm moving all of the bits of hair together, which makes movement or basically fine detail control a lot quicker and easier to do. And anytime you don't want it on, you just hit O and then you can just move your individual points. So much quicker to start editing things around. Now, if within this is becoming annoying and you decide you do actually need to have one of these hairs individually or sets of hair, all you do, because you start seeing all of these points, which comes a little bit tricky to work out which one's which, all you do is select a point that's for that piece of hair that you want, and then you just press L to select all of them. You don't actually need to have one selected. You can just come over and press L. I just like to do this to make sure that I haven't accidentally got something else selected as well. And then you can just hit P, and now this is a separate strand of hair that's separated from everything else. I'm just going to undo that because I don't actually want that. But this just gives you all of the options you previously had when doing hair, but it just gives you more of those options because, well, you just gain more control. Let's just add in another strand of the hair there. And then with this all selected, I'm just going to Alt and S, make this one a little bit smaller. And then let's bring that in. So we can't see the beginning, but we can see all of the other hair. Once again, A, V, and automatic. And we can move this around the ear if we want to, if we want this coming in front. So hopefully that gives you some good ideas of what we can do with hair and how we can make this work in a slightly better way. Or I should also say, if you press Ctrl and T, you can still tilt the hair around if you want to do something to move it around an ear. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can more quickly make hair on a model, and it just goes through some of those tips that I feel are really missing on those basic hair tutorials. If you did find that useful, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button. It really helps get the algorithm going and more people seeing the video. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you get notified when new videos are out. And if you want to support the channel any further, we've got a Patreon page where for a few dollars a month you get these videos ad-free, a week early, and other great perks as well, such as access to the Patreon Discord. Have a great day, guys.